So, was GDC worth it? Let's get into it. Okay, we've booted up Skater XL. I just want to play it while I talk about everything I want to talk about with GDC. I know it's super random, but I don't have any like stock footage that I grabbed from like San Francisco. But yeah, it's just what I want to do. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. Was GDC worth it? Yes, like absolutely was worth it. 100%. If you're able to get out there, do it. But I'm gonna break up this video kind of into three main sections. How I went into it, then I'm gonna call the preparation, where I'm at in my current game dev journey, which I'm calling the reality, and how it was being there, which I'm gonna call the moment. So it's in three little sections, this video, and it's the preparation, the reality, and the moment. And so, breaking into the first one, the preparation, how I went into it. So, you got to go into it with an open mind, and you have to, be ready to meet people and to talk about yourself. And, that's like not a lot of people's go-to, and I get it. It's not my go-to, but, it's something you have to accept and you have to prepare for sure. But to make that easier, I listed a few things that'll make that easier, that preparation and that acceptance of having to talk about yourself. So first things first, go into it with a portfolio. Have a portfolio ready and just have some projects that you're ready to talk about. Because somebody's gonna ask you, oh, so what do you do? And you could say it, right? And then, if you leave an impression on that person, you want to be able to give them a link to a website, or something that will show them, to reinforce what you talked about. So definitely have a portfolio or have some projects somewhere that you can show, just so you feel confident in what you're talking about, and that you have, that you have some substance to what you're talking about, essentially, and some evidence, not substance, but more so evidence, to what you're talking about. Next thing for the preparation is reach out to people in your area, from your hometown, from your city, that might be going, and, see if they want to meet up. Because I will say, I've never been in San Francisco, and so being in a city that I'm not familiar with, it was nice to meet up with somebody and be like, yo, this is a lot different than where we're from, and be able to relate on that level, essentially. And I know that might be a bit hard for some people. Like, I'm from Chicago, and, we have a lot of people here. So, there is a bit of a game dev scene, and, it was nice to be able to meet up with people, from Chicago. But, maybe you could take it, a different route and meet up with somebody from a Discord that or, meet up with, maybe it's a homie, or, just try to meet up with somebody from a community that essentially, because it'll make it easier. Once you meet up with somebody like that, being able to like relate with them and just talk with them will definitely ease your nerves a lot more, and it'll kind of put it into perspective, like, dang, I'm not the only one kind of going through it, kind of thing. So yeah, another part of the preparation phase, just try to have some meetups lined up, so you're not going in trying to just walk up to every random person you see. So yeah. Another thing that kind of goes along with what I just said before the preparation phase, is you can do a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the footwork online. You can reach out to a bunch of people online, and just be like, hey, you want to meet up. It's kind of what I just said already, but like you could do a lot of that. And, it's kind of the beauty of, online right now is like you can do a bunch of the footwork of that initial like, hey, you want to hang out. You could do that online, and then at GDC, you could do it. You could be like, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee, stuff like that. So yeah, consider consider reaching out to people online. Also, like if you have a favorite developer, if you want to talk to the systems designer of Skyrim, they might be there. You know what I mean? Find them on LinkedIn, reach out, and you never know. You really don't. So, always something to consider for sure. Um, Along with that, yeah, just reach out to as many people as possible online because you never know who's going to say yes and be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's grab a cup of coffee before this event or whatever. So, yeah, you could do a lot of footwork and a lot of heavy lifting online before you even get to the event. So consider doing that for the preparation. Um, but yeah, that's basically it for the preparation. Go into it with some projects, go into it with some meetups lined up, and that's honestly it. It'll help in the long run for sure, especially just when you're in those moments. So yeah. Next phase. So the reality. Where I'm at in my game dev journey and the reality of my current situation and why this was helpful to my GDC experience. One second. Okay. So now getting into the reality, where I'm at in my game dev journey and why it made GDC worth it. So I'm fresh out of college. It's March right now. Just graduated December of last year. And I don't have a network in the game industry. I coming out of college, right? Like I know the people I met there. But I didn't really know anybody in the industry or anything like that. I just knew my classmates, and so this played a huge part in why it made GDC worth it, is because it allowed me to start to build the foundation of a network of game developers. It allowed me to begin to get my foot in the door of some possible industry people, and that was a huge part of why I made GDC worth it, because now I feel like I have not only an idea for the industry, but I feel like I possibly know some people that could really help me out in the long run. So yeah, that was a major thing about, why the reality of where I'm at right now is a reason why GDC was worth it. Another thing with the reality of where I'm at as a game dev and why that made it worth it to go to GDC is I know I don't have a network, and due to that reason, I knew why I was going to GDC, right? I was going to learn, and I was going to get an idea of the industry, right? And I was going to make networks and make connections, right? I don't think, it's a bad thing to have an idea that you want to meet people, like, right? It's just, you just have to, kind of watch a line to cross where you're not trying to make a connect out of every person you meet. You know what I mean? Some people you meet might be friends, and, not to say that people in your network aren't your friends, they usually are, but, never go at every conversation with like, oh, this person can get me a job kind of thing, so you have to watch that line and try not to cross it. But yeah, knowing where you're at in your game dev journey will help you, answer the question, is GDC worth it for you? So yeah, that was a big one. Knowing where I'm at in my journey and knowing that I needed to make connections. So yeah, moving on to the moment and being there and what it was like and why the moment of being at GDC made GDC worth it. I just have to say, like, right out of the gate, even though I do make these videos and I have this YouTube channel, I'm not extroverted. I would not claim myself being extroverted at all. I don't think I'm the most introverted person, but I'm definitely not the loudest, like at a party or anything like that. It definitely took some just me getting out of my box and understanding, like, okay, you're in this moment, you need to make the most of it, so you have to accept that reality, and you have to be ready to seize the opportunity and make the most of the situation you're in. With that said, it can be really intimidating. Being in the moment can be really intimidating. And, for one, you could be in a city that you don't know, which is super tough already, right? And then you're surrounded by a bunch of people you don't know. But then there's kind of this beautiful part of GDC and why I feel like this was such a big part of this convention specifically. It's all game developers around you. It's all people that share that exact interest that you have. You can literally talk to anybody there, and you guys could sit and talk about your favorite video game, like, all day. That's why they're there. And if you find somebody that doesn't like video games when you're there, I would probably go play the lottery, because that would be pretty insane. I'm not gonna lie. So even though you're surrounded by all of these people, you have to understand that all of these people are there for their love of video games, and you're there for your love of video games. And there's a warming feeling in that, for sure. And it makes that approaching somebody a lot easier, for sure. So yeah, you gotta understand that everybody's there because they like video games, regardless of who they are, regardless. So yeah, and if you are introverted, and you consider yourself very, very introverted, and I have to say, like, I consider myself introverted. I really do. I'm not the most outgoing person. I have my moments, for sure, but it's not super easy. So what I do have to say is you have to realize that you want a position in this industry, and you want to work with people. And if you can just get past that wall of being introverted and say, hey, this is the only time really out of the year that I'll be presented with this many opportunities, you have to accept it, and you got to kind of swallow your pride a little bit, and you just got to try your hardest to get out there. I know that's some super blanket, vague advice, but, like, it's so important, because you have no idea who you're next to when you're there. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I remember I was just sitting in a meeting, and the meeting wrapped up, and this guy in front of me was just wearing an Avowed shirt, and I was like, hey man, did you work on Avowed? And he was like, yeah, I was a developer on Avowed. And then I just got to sit there and ask this person, like, all these questions about Avowed and, like, how they developed the game. It was sick. You know what I mean? Yeah, I got their Connect after I got their LinkedIn. But, like, it wasn't even about that. It was about, I just got to talk to this person who just developed a AAA game, you know? Um, and so you never know, who you're next to. So there's moments where you just have to be like, let me just go for it. Because trust me, nothing crazy is going to happen. I really don't think anything crazy would happen. But yeah, so that's a big one. If you're introverted, just understand this is the one time that you just need to step out of your box a little bit and just go for it, because it'll help you and your career so far. So yeah, that's a big one. But yeah, definitely try your hardest. And to kind of piggyback off of that, I have to say my least favorite thing is like icebreakers or like events that are set up for you to meet people, and everybody has that like I have to meet somebody energy. It could be that feeling's the worst, right? Because you see people talking and you're like, damn, they're doing it and I'm not. The number one workaround to this at GDC was don't go to those events, because you could just go to the meetings, right? Go to a meeting that you're interested in, and then grab somebody after and be like, hey, that was an interesting meeting. What do you do? Like, it's that simple. You would be surprised about how natural conversations would flow, like after meetings or if you're in the line for a meeting. So, you don't have to go to the networking meetings and stuff. There's like a whole section in one of the buildings where you could just go play board games. And I sat there for probably like 2 hours just playing board games and meeting new people. And the entire time I was playing board games. Like, it was sick. And you just get to talk to people about video games, you know what I mean? And learn about new games. And I just thought that was so cool, because you're like, you feel like you have to go meet people, but in reality, you could just go play games and people will kind of congregate to you. They'll come to you and be like, oh, what are you playing? What are you doing? So yeah, kind of let people come to you, put yourself in a good position. Going off of that as well, you'll go to the expo floor, and the expo floor is massive, right? There are people everywhere. And you're like, my first thought was like, nah, I'm not gonna network amongst this. It was like a frenzy, But instead of walking up to people, I went and found a game, and I sat and played it. And then somebody would just walk up to me and be like, hey, like, sometimes they'd be like, are you the developer? I'd be like, no, but this game is sick. And they're like, yeah, I think so too. And then boom, you're in a conversation. And you have no idea what that person's doing. Maybe they're working on a project and they need a composer. You're right, and you're a composer, and boom, now you could have work in the next couple months. So like the expo floor was so good for just going and finding something you liked, literally playing a game, and then somebody would just come up to you, or if somebody was playing a game that you're interested in, and you did the vice versa. You're like, this is a dope game. Like, did you develop it? Most of the time, it's no. But it's always, a good like segue into, you guys both enjoying the game. So yeah, there's so many opportunities at GDC to set yourself up to meet people. And I think that is one of the main reasons why I feel like it was so worth it, is because GDC makes it easy. Because it's just a bunch of game developers around. It's a bunch of people that like video games. So, how could it not be, easier to approach than somebody on the street, right? Like, they're obviously there because they like video games. So, the reason the moment is so important to why GDC was worth it is because being in the moment at GDC, you realize you're surrounded by a bunch of video game developers. You could play video games, and you'll just meet people by just playing video games. And it's kind of just, it's hard not to meet people, to be completely honest. It really is. So yeah, that was kind of my experience with GDC and why I felt like it was worth it. It's just do it. If you can do it, do it. Get out there. You never know who you're gonna meet. So yeah. And I will say, I'll leave you guys with this. Go to GDC if you can. It's 100% worth it. You're going to meet somebody that will help you out later down the line. And I just wanted to make a quick video talking about it and talking about my experience and why I thought it was worth it. And that's all of that on top of the meeting rooms that are super cool, getting to play all of the new games that are coming out, all of these indie games, some of the smartest level design I've ever seen in video games. The new indie games coming out, the indie scene is like, it's up next. It's crazy how good these games are that are coming out. And that's just the cherry on top. Like my last day at GDC, I just set out to play video games the entire day. And it was super fun. I got to play a bunch of dope games. Shout out to like Indica, Tonoshika, I believe. Those are just the two of my favorite. Angerfoot. Oh my gosh, Angerfoot was so good. Consume Me for sweeping the awards ceremony. Balatro for sweeping the AAA awards ceremony, and being in the indie pool as well, which is just so sick. Oh my gosh, so many games, so much good stuff. So yeah, it's worth it. If you can do it, get out there, do it. You won't regret it at all. But yeah, that was basically it for this video. Basically just a big yap fest while I played Skater XL. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with this. I did join a studio. And I'll let you guys know what that is at another time. Peace.